My final guest tonight is an artist in his prime and in his pomp. On screen, he's internationally renowned for his roles in Lord of the Rings and X-Men. On stage, he's at present reaffirming his reputation as a truly great actor in Strindberg's Dance of Death at the Lyric Theatre in London. Welcome, please, Sir Ian Mckellen.
Hello.
Great.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. Sit down.
Were
Thank
you a Cooper fan?
Oh, look at it. Isn't he lovely?
Isn't it nice, eh?
Well, like you, didn't you go to music hall when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so did I. And I only saw Tommy Cooper once in Manchester at a club there. I took my auntie. And what do I remember about it? Just the mayhem at the end, you know, with everything on the floor, covered in props. And there was a story that he'd taken a taxi back to Piccadilly Station to get back to London, and at the end of the journey, given the cabbie an envelope and said, have a drink on me. And when he'd gone, the cabbie opened it up, and inside there was a tea bag.
Yes. Yeah, there aren't too many generous comedians. It's a trait they seem to have, actually. They're all fairly cautious with their money. I'll probably get called now.
And brave.
And brave.
I mean, as you were saying earlier, I mean, all actors who've learned a script know how brave a comedian is, whether he's got a script or not, to just stand there, because ad-lib and improvisation is the essence of it, isn't it?
Now, what about this play that you're in the Dance of Death, Strindberg? Now, I read somewhere where you said that this was the part that you really coveted, the part you wanted to play.
Yeah, I've never had a long list of parts I wanted to play, but ever since I saw Laurence Olivier play it at the National Theatre, he was understudied by Anthony Hopkins, who had a non-speaking part in the production. I wanted to do it simply because he was so tremendous, and I could see there was a great part. You get to do all sorts of things that actors like to do, like being drunk and dying and dancing at one point, and some good one-liners and all sorts of things like that. And I always wanted to play it, and the chance came, and so I did it.
And there's some comedy in it too, isn't there? I mean, it's thought to be a rather sort of sombre piece, but there is comedy
Strindberg,
there.
it was written 100 years ago, and August Strindberg, who wrote 67 plays, has a very bad reputation outside Sweden as being a very gloomy man indeed, and being hating women and so on. This play is about a marriage that's just coming up for its 25th wedding anniversary, and the couple hate everything about the world, including each other, which leads, I think, to quite a lot of comedy from people who are observing it. Of course, to be in a marriage like that is hell, and they call it hell. Yes. But for the observers, of course, it's even as you're cringing, you're finding it amusing. And we were rewarded by the director of the Swedish National Theatre coming to see it in the first week and saying, at last, a non-Swedish production of our great writer Strindberg that realises that he was actually funny. So.
You said you saw Olivier play it, and that sparked off your ambition. How big an impression did he leave on you?
I realise I got a very faulty memory about the performance. It is 30 years ago, but I do remember a particularly telling moment when he came onto the stage on his own with a kitten, with a cat. And I can see him now coming down stage. Of course, the audience riveted. What's this cat doing in this play suddenly? And he came down stage right, and suddenly looked to the audience and turned and threw the cat right across the stage out of a window. Well, it was electrifying, and I couldn't wait to get to this moment, you know. I was at last going to get to throw the cat, because how was it done, and, you know, which cat and all that. So I began to consult people who'd been involved in that production that I remembered, and Edward Petherbridge, a good mate of mine, who was playing a non-speaking part in it, along with Tony Hopkins, was in the wings. And I said, now, how did Larry throw the cat? But he said he never threw the cat. He said, it was my job in the wings to receive the cat from him, so he couldn't have thrown it because I got it. Oh, so I thought I'd misremembered. I went to see Maggie Smith in her play the other week. I said, Maggie, do you remember Larry doing Dance of Death? Oh, yes. Chewing up the scenery and throwing the cat. I said, throwing the cat? Oh, yes, he threw the cat out of the window. I said, well, I'm sure he threw the cat. Well, in the first week of the run here, Joan Plowright, Lady Olivier, Larry's widow, came. very moved by the production, very pleased with it, and I said, just tell me, Larry and the cat. He never used a cat. So there we are. We've got 3 people who were all there, all knew what was going on, and all completely disagreed. I think probably what he did was he came on with a real cat, palmed it through a fake cat, which meant that he delivered it to Ted Petherbridge in the wings. But I have a real cat called Poppy. And if you're watching Poppy, all my life, I look forward to seeing you next time. Great compliment.
Wonderful. What about movies? Because you've had this wonderful career now where you're playing in movies these 2 extraordinary, iconic parts. Lord of the Rings and X-Men.
Yeah.
The new film which is coming out very shortly.
X-Men 2, a witty title.
2. That's right. Witty title, yes. A long time thinking about that. But what
could be the Y Men, I suppose, this time.
Or the Y front man.
what about Lord of the Rings?
Actually, the X-Men do wear Y fronts, don't they?
Have you quite finished this private conversation? Tell me about Lord of the Rings. I mean, tell me about when you're playing the wizard, Gandalf, when you're given that part to play, do you have any idea of the kind of weight of responsibility that was on your shoulders?
None at all. I hadn't read the book. Books. Nor, with X-Men, had I read the comics, and they've both been going for about 50 years now, you know, and you're right, they are iconic figures for their fans. And but I learnt very early on, because I've got a website, and people communicated with me and said, now look, get Gandalf right or there'll be trouble. And although when you're doing a film, actors always miss the audience, I had a great sense there was an audience waiting, you know, for the movie, and so the responsibility was very strong. And, but I was just glad and optimistic that there would be an audience, but whether it would be an audience who would approve was the question mark. But it turned out, as you know, that they did, resoundingly.
Well, what about the appearance? I mean, how did you work that one out?
Well, that was everything, really, wasn't it?
Yes.
To look like Gandalf. And easy enough because Tolkien, who wrote the novels, makes it very clear what Gandalf looks like. And Alan Lee and John Howe, the 2 great illustrators of the books, and anyone who's read the books thinks of the Gandalf from those illustrations. They were on hand whilst I was having my makeup devised.
Yes.
And it took about 3 days. You know, there were various wigs, various moustaches, various eyebrows, various noses, various beards. And I kept looking in the mirror, and I would see various hirsute gentlemen that were quite inappropriate, like Ben Gunn and Rasputin, Osama bin Laden suddenly turned up one day. And then, I don't know, it all came together one day, and the people who were doing all this stepped back, and I looked, and I did a little twinkle with my eye, and I said, Gandalf. And, you know, a bit like you know, you're feeling, oh, my God, I'm being taken over. And I stood up, and I found, because I looked like him, I could speak like him, and I could walk like him. And that was it. That was over. It was easy. But that work had all been done by a committee, actually.
Yes,
not by me.
It's a strange job you're in this make-believe world.
But there's a little bit in Stanislavski, you know, the man who devised the method that many, many serious actors follow to get deep into their parts. And he says, refreshingly, if all else fails, you know, if you can't find the part in your own past or imagine it, look in the mirror and start putting on some makeup and try and look like the character. And in rep, when I started out, you know, with only a couple of weeks to get a performance out of nowhere, many's the time I was without a character at the dress rehearsal, sticking on moustaches, trying to say, will that do? Oh, no, that won't do. Will this one do? So there are various little ways into acting.
Now, what about the... You worked on this film for how long?
1 year. Though I still have to... Dance of Death's got to come off in mid-June because I've got to go back and do... They've written some new scenes in for Gandhi. Yes,
oh, right.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, so it was a very close-knit community, and in bonding together, there was a tattoo, was there not? A fellowship tattoo.
Yes.
And
yes,
I'm wondering if A, you were tattooed, and B, if you'd show us your tattoo, and C, where is it?
Well, when I show it to you, if I show it to you, you'll know where it is, won't you?
Yes, but did yeah, don't be coy. I mean,
I can't believe this. When did you last have a distinguished guest stripping on your show? obviously not often enough.
Not often enough, no.
Well, do you want me to show you?
Yeah, I do, please, yes. Explain the tattoo.
The tattoo is about my person. And we all went down to a seedy tattoo parlour, but when tattoo parlour's not seedy, you know, in Wellington, the capital city of New Zealand, and held each other's hands while we had it put in various places. Many of the hobbits had theirs put down here. Elijah Wood had his... Oh, no.
He's got to do another read.
But mine is in a sort of traditional place, and it says... 9 in Elvish, because there are 9 members of the fellowship.
Oh, there we are.
That's wonderful.
Is that a proper tattoo? That's
Yeah, it won't come off.
It won't come off.
But the engaging thing is that from the angle at which I have to look at it, if you just extend that first letter, give it a little tail, it spells Gucci.
Going beside, when is it coming off, your Dance of Death?
The tattoo's not coming off.
No, Dance of Death.
Dance of Death goes through to second week in June. Then I do a bit more Gandalf. Sorry, I call him Gandhi, but everybody else calls him Gandalf.
I mean, Edgar, who you play in
Yeah.
Dance of Death, I mean, he's not an evil man, he's a tyrant.
It depends how you look at it. You know, I mean, his wife thinks he's a total monster, and traditionally he's been one of the great stage monsters, like Shylock or Iago or Richard III.
Who have you played?
Well, I've played a few of those.
You have Hitler?
And I played Hitler, yes, on television. The way into those parts, I think, is to look to find the humanity that you can relate to. And, of course, these people, horrible as they are, aren't horrible all the time, and they don't necessarily think of themselves as being horrible, and you have to stick up for the character you're playing. So, not that you go around playing them as sweet-hearted pussycats, but I think if you asked Edgar, was he horrible, he'd say, I'm perfectly reasonable. It's my wife that's horrible, you see, and she thinks the same of him. And
Hitler would have thought he was a reasonable man.
Well, I dare say, yes, I dare say Saddam Hussein, wherever he is,
Yes,
thinks that, well, what's everyone getting so excited about, you know?
Yes.
But certainly if you were playing those dreadful people,
You wouldn't play them evil.
You can't start by saying, I'm going to play the embodiment of all evil. How can you do that? No, you look for the humanity.
That's interesting. Fascinating. Now, what about future plans? Because I hear a whisper that you might be playing pantomime this year in London.
Oh, well, wouldn't that be nice? I haven't been able to... I want to play Dame, frankly.
Do you?
Yes. Don't you want to play Dame?
I want to see you playing.
Oh, thank you. Well, but I thought last year, I thought, well, I'm actually going to do it at last, and because the National Theatre was going to have a pantomime, you know. And they never got round to doing it because every single person, every man in the National Theatre Company wanted to play Dame, so there was no one left to play the other parts. But Norwich said I could go and play it there, so I thought, well, yeah, Norwich, it's out of the way. No, I'm doing it, and my friends won't come and see it. Yeah. Try it out. And I had just had a couple of conversations on the phone, and the first one was, could I look at the script? There's a pause, and they said, well, we don't have a script. No, you arrive with your material. Oh, fine. Well, who's directing? Well, we don't have a director. I said, how long will we be rehearsing? Oh, a good 10 days. Well, you know, I'm used to 4 weeks, minimum. So I thought about this for a time, and then I called up and said, now, look, about the schedule, you know, because I know you had to do panto twice a day, minimum. And they said, he said, oh, well, now, yes, now, let me just have a look at the diary. Yes, now, look. Oh, yes, oh, well, now. Toward the end of January, you do get a couple of mornings off. Which is why I didn't play pantomime in Norwich.
But why is it an ambition of yours? What is it about pantomime?
Because of this almost obsession with funny men. And, of course, the point about a dame is that it is a funny man. It's not female impersonation. It's not Lily Savage. It's not Danny LaRue.
No,
it's Norman Wisdom, you know, over the garden wall. And
Norman Evans.
Norman Evans, sorry.
Norman Evans.
No, not Norman Wisdom. No, Norman Evans.
I used to love Norman Evans.
And, you know, his daughter came to see the play the other day and had heard me saying that I was a fan of her father's and she wrote me a sweet note. She's called Norma Evans.
Norma Evans. But they're an important part of our lives, and it is important, as they were saying earlier, that the laughter is terribly important.
Well, and why? Why doesn't the Palladium have variety? Why is variety gone? You know, look, people, I think, expect more. I mean, you're doing 2 hours of Tommy Cooper. I bet Tommy Cooper never did an hour on stage. He probably did, when I saw him, he did about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And, you know, when Frank Sinatra was top of the bill at Palladium, he probably only sang about 6 songs. And to see a great singer now, you'd want a whole evening of them. It's changed a bit, but there's nothing like variety.
No.
And when you come across a bit of the show you're not enjoying, this used to be the fun, you nipped out and had a drink in the bar, didn't you? There was coming and going. It was all on a human level.
But people have stopped going to the theatre like that, you see.
Talking about theatre, I mean, I did Dance of Death on Broadway, and we opened a week after September the 11th, you know, when suddenly Manhattan was cut off from the rest of the world, and audiences for new plays weren't too bad, but for anything that had been on for a long time plummeted. Well, the same thing's happening now with the war. Broadway is having a dreadful time. You can get in to see any show on Broadway, and it's the same is true in the West End. I just want to encourage people, if I can, that now's a great time to go to the West End because the tourists are not coming.
Yes.
And all those seats that they would normally take up,
Yes.
tourists not only from abroad but from this country are keeping away from them. Locals, this is the time to go. You'll get into any theatre and you can park, and you'll probably get cheap prices. Ask for discounts. I'll see you at the Lyric.
The Lyric and the Garrick are the 2 places we go to. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ian, for coming on and talking to us. I much enjoyed it. So, Ian Mckellen.
Thank you.